Coach, we come up on the end of spring ball.
Yeah.
Where do you think your defensive tackles in particular come along the farthest?
The first thing is really having them understand what the culture is, and then to be able to live it, right, and then have it be natural. And so that's kind of the progression, right. And in terms of knowing what that is understanding who we are, how we do things, what rate we do things, and when we want it done. And so I feel like our guys, they automatically know, like, hey, these are what the expectations are. One thing you don't want to do is continue to repeat it as a I mean, you do it as a reminder as a coach, but not as an like trying to implement it all the time. So like they know what the process is. So that's really positive. It's in the right direction. Now it's continuing to just go on and continue to build who we are.
Now, we've seen out here when we've come out, you've been doing a lot of tackling drills and that type of stuff. Is that part
Yeah.
of that, like just like the building from the ground up to make sure everybody understands exactly what's
Yeah, I mean, you break it down. Tackling is like the most basic part of the DNA, right? Of football is being able to tackle and all that stuff. And regardless of the uniforms and the different throwbacks and all that stuff, it all comes down to the runner and the tackler, right? And so that's the most fundamental skill that you can have that can make a difference, right? In any type of situation, make the ball swing back and forth. So that's not only something that we emphasize; that's a daily practice. That's a core value of defensive plays is to tackle.
At this point in spring, and this week in particular, how much time do you spend preparing for the transfer portal and potential guys that you think could fit in the system?
Well, we don't know who's in there,
Right.
right? And so we can't even address any situation until they're in the transfer portal, right? And so what we do is we just continue to control what we control. We got our guys here; those are the guys we help, develop. That crossroad comes, and when that opens, and whoever's there is whoever's there. But we really have no say or preparation for anything that we don't know exists, right? It's kind of like preparing for ghosts. We don't know anything, and so we just go along, just completing what we got to do and control what we can control.
We just barely talked to him a little bit, and I know you guys don't love talking about individuals and whatnot, but since we just talked to Jackson, what has he kind of brought to the interior of that defensive line, and what do you like about his game and kind of how he fits in this sort of
Yeah. So I coached Jackson. I was his coach when he first came to Utah, right? And it was between Utah and Oklahoma, and so I was his coach for that spring. And then he, felt that it was a better move for him to go to Boise, and so to really reconnect with him, right? It's kind of like we're ending off what we're starting off, but he's a better version. And hopefully, I became a better version for him. And so Jackson's been a great addition to the room. He's been a guy that's a seasoned veteran, but in a very there's a demeanor about him, right? That just says, hey, we're going to respect this guy. He's not a guy that came in and was like, hey, I'm going to be in the one rotations and going like that. He's just done everything that we've asked him to do, with just wholeheartedly just been able to do it. So just the way he carries himself, he affects the room in different ways.
Is he different at all from that kid that you recruited out of high school that spent a year up on the hill that you sent off to Boise and all that?
He's not different at all. He's everything that I seen, that I expected, that I knew he would be, and he's done that on his own accord. He's been able to take his journey, but that's just the kind of kid Jackson is. I'm fortunate to be his coach and to be able to be at this crossroads, where at the towards the end of his playing career in college. So I'm fortunate to be his coach.
Attrition has been an issue for this defensive line in recent years. Need for depth's a very big thing. How are you feeling about the depth being developed?
Yeah, and that's why spring ball, you want to develop everybody, right? Because you never really know until the spring. So you develop everybody that you have on your roster, right? Get into the highest level. You don't develop in terms of phases. And so I coach every guy like he's a starter, and then whatever happens at the end happens at the end. So that's what I can be able to control now. Try to say, okay, I'm trying to second tier or third tier. You don't want to segment your coaching, right? Because you want to just consistently be coaching at a high level. So when you do that I feel when you coach that way, there's a frequency that just lets things kind of fall in its own way, just because you've been coaching at that level.
How are you feeling about the overall depth of the defense?
Good. So when we talk about depth, we're talking about in basketball, we're talking about the strength of the bench, right? Well, the strength of the depth is in the development of them. All of them have developed really well, right? In terms of understanding where the culture is, how we want things done, when we want things done. So everybody has taken its stride. So for everybody is in there has been making progress.
So on the roster, they break up by DN and D tackle, 10 of each. Do you just work with the D tackles? Or?
Defensive tackles. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We're phone booth players. You know what I mean? It's all the interior work that we take care of. A's and B gaps.
What a number of those guys can go back and forth? I know John Nelson's done it.
Yeah, usually we just, we got a roster of 125, 128 when the season starts, and so usually you just get a guy to really specialize in a certain area. So whether they play 3 technique or they play 2 technique, right? There's a lot of variations that they play within the inside. So there's a lot of variations, and they can play those multiple positions inside. But once you get kind of the outside, it really just changes a lot of different rules. You get a lot of different schemes and terminologies become a little bit different.
I'm sure the whole staff talks a whole bunch, and you guys are very collaborative. But is there a little extra layer of collaboration between you and Hawk going between tackles to ends?
Oh yeah, they're always I don't know if you call it extra. I think you call it necessary collaboration, right? It's not that there's like, okay, did you collaborate 10 times today? Like, we collaborate as much as we need, even if that goes to 30 or 40 times a day, right? Some days might be 5. So there is work that we do with the defensive ends when it comes to doing things, and so yeah, we have necessary collaboration.
It's not just like a back and forth.
Yeah.
Touch my guy. I want
Yeah, no. Hey, my guys are just much as pops as anything else, man. And so whatever he says to my guys is just the same thing come from my mouth.
I don't know if you've been asked on the Jackson Cravens questions, but obviously he's got Whittingham blood in him.
Yeah.
Is that a point of conversation with you guys since you've been at Utah?
It's a point of history, right?
Oh, yeah?
Right. It's a point of history, and kind of I told him before, I coached Jackson, right? I was the one that recruited him, and I coached him as a freshman, and he felt that he needed to kind of venture off a little bit, and then kind of fate brought us back together here. So we've had a lot of history, great history as well, and we look forward to making history. Okay. Nice. All right, guys. Thank you, man. Thank you, man.